Welcome to Adrian IEP Coach Podcast, the show for parents of children with special needs navigating the special education and IEP process. I'm Adrian, a special education advocate and former insider, and each episode I break down what schools don't clearly explain, your rights, the laws, the language, and what actually helps move your child forward. No jargon, no sugarcoating, just real clarity so you can stop guessing and start advocating with confidence. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's something to think about. What if the way you phrase a single question in a meeting could completely change the outcome for your child's education? That's what we're diving into today. Oh, I love this already. It's such a simple idea, but it's so powerful. I mean, how often do we really stop to think about the words we're using, especially in high stakes situations like IEP meetings? Exactly. And that's the thing. Most parents don't realize that the language they use in these meetings can either open doors or shut them. It's not just about what you're asking for, it's about how you're framing it. Right. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes in. Parents walk into these meetings with valid concerns, but they leave feeling like nothing's changed. It's not because they're wrong, it's because they're not speaking the same language as the school. That's such a good point. Schools operate in this world of data, evidence, and measurable outcomes. So when a parent says something like, I don't think this is enough support, it might feel like a strong statement, but to the school, it's just an opinion. And opinions, unfortunately, don't carry much weight in that setting. But when you reframe it as, I'd like to understand how these services were determined based on my child's data, now you're speaking their language. You're asking for evidence, and you're holding them accountable. Exactly. And it's not about being confrontational. It's about being strategic. You're not there to argue. You're there to advocate. And that's a big mindset shift for a lot of parents. So let's break this down a bit. Why do you think so many parents struggle with this? Is it just a lack of information, or is there something deeper going on? I think it's a combination of things. For one, the IEP process is overwhelming. There's so much jargon, so many moving parts, and it's easy to feel like you're in over your head. But there's also an emotional component. You're talking about your child, someone you love more than anything, and it's hard not to let that emotion take over. Oh, absolutely. And when you're emotional, it's easy to fall into those feeling statements Adrian talks about. I feel this. I want that. But schools aren't moved by feelings. They're moved by data. Right. And that's the frustrating part, because as a parent, your feelings are valid. You know your child better than anyone else in that room. But the system isn't set up to prioritize that. It's set up to prioritize measurable outcomes. And that's why learning to speak their language is so important. It's almost like learning a new dialect. You're still talking about the same things, your child's needs, their progress, but you're framing it in a way that the system can't ignore. Exactly. And that's where tools like Adrian's IEP cheat sheet come in. It's not about changing what you're saying. It's about changing how you're saying it. So let's talk about some of the specific phrases she mentions. Like, instead of saying, I want more help for my child, you say, what data shows that the current level of support is meeting my child's needs? That's a game changer. It really is. Because now you're not just asking for more, you're asking for justification. You're saying, prove to me that what you're doing is working. And if they can't, well, that opens the door for a deeper conversation. And then there's the question about progress. Can you explain how progress is being measured and how often that data is reviewed? That one really stood out to me. Me too, because it's not just about whether progress is being made, it's about how they're tracking it and how frequently they're checking in. If they can't explain that clearly, that's a huge red flag. And I think that's where a lot of parents get stuck. They assume that if the school says progress is being made, then everything's fine. But if you don't know how they're measuring that progress, you don't really know if it's accurate. Exactly. And that's why these questions are so powerful. They force the school to be transparent, which is something parents don't always feel like they're getting in these meetings. So let's circle back to the bigger picture here. What Adrian is really advocating for is a mindset shift. It's about moving from being reactive to being proactive. Absolutely. And that's not easy. It takes time, practice, and honestly, a lot of courage because it can be intimidating to sit in a room full of professionals and hold them accountable, but it's so worth it. And I think that's why Adrian's work is so important. She's not just giving parents information, she's giving them confidence. She's saying, you don't have to navigate this alone. There are tools, there's support, and you can do this. And that message is so empowering because at the end of the day, it's not about winning or losing. It's about making sure your child gets what they need to succeed. Exactly. And if you're a parent listening to this and thinking, I wouldn't even know where to start, that's okay. The important thing is to take that first step, whether it's downloading a resource like the IEP cheat sheet or joining a community for support. Right. Because once you start learning the language, once you start asking the right questions, everything changes. You stop feeling like you're guessing and you start advocating with confidence. And that's the goal, isn't it? To walk into those meetings knowing that you're not just speaking, you're being heard. Exactly. And that's something every parent deserves. Thanks for spending this time with me today. If this episode helped you see the IEP process more clearly, that means you're already becoming a stronger advocate for your child, and that matters. Remember, you don't have to navigate special education alone. Support, clarity, and guidance make a difference. Thank you for listening to Adrian IEP Coach Podcast. Until next time, stay informed, stay confident, and keep advocating.